The WWE Draft 2024 predictions video is here, ladies and gentlemen. I've speculated what I think should happen on multiple other videos on this channel, but now it's time to predict what I think will actually happen this Friday and of course on Monday as well for SmackDown and Raw respectively. NXT will be included in the draft as well, so during this video I'm going to go who I think will be moving from Raw to SmackDown, SmackDown to Raw, NXT call-ups to both shows, and which main roster superstars from Raw and SmackDown will be moving to NXT. So without further ado, let's go for it then from SmackDown to Raw, kicking off with the Tribal Chief, the head of the table. Yes, Roman Reigns and the Bloodline will be moving to Monday Night Raw. Roman has not been on Monday Night Raw since 2019, 5 whole years. It is time to freshen up, get him on a different show, have the Bloodline saga continue, which looks like it's going to be a Bloodline Civil War in 2024. Jey Uso is already there. Yes, spoiler alert, I'm bringing Jimmy Uso over as well. And yes, we're going to have all of this cinema play out on our screens on Monday nights, because Raw will also be going to Netflix in 2025. Of course, that is before next year's WrestleMania. So without further ado, let's have the biggest storylines possible on Netflix. Roman Reigns and the Bloodline will be moving to Monday Night Raw, in my opinion. Keeping things faction heavy, next I've got Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits moving over to Raw, because SmackDown just doesn't have enough time for these guys, unfortunately. They've not done enough for me in the 12 months they have been over there, so they'll get more TV time on Raw. And well, if I'm being honest as well, with the factions then we have on Raw currently, with me going on here, the Bloodline, spoiler alert, Judgment Day is sticking around as well. If you have Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits over there, that's some big faction warfare we can have playing out on Monday nights. And of course as well, Bobby Lashley didn't have the match with Roman Reigns last year. Yes, it wouldn't be for a championship, but still you could have that match during this next 12 months on Raw as well. So for me, that would be awesome to see. The Street Profits can go for the tag team championships as well. I think it'll be a good time all round. I think these three need the move to Monday Night Raw, so I'm going to predict it will happen. However, you would think with me predicting Montez Ford were moving to Raw that I'd predict Bianca Belair to move to Raw. I'm actually not going to do that. I think that even though they are a married couple, I think they're going to be on separate shows, and the reason for that is I think Bianca Belair is soon going to become a women's tag team champion on SmackDown with Jade Cargill. Therefore, those two will be probably appearing on Raw anyway. They don't need to be actually assigned to Monday Night Raw to actually appear on Raw if they are the women's tag team champions. So I think for that reason, Bianca will actually stay on SmackDown. But what about the current women's tag team champions if Bianca and Jade win those titles from the Kabuki Warriors? Well, with them and the rest of Damage Control, I have them moving to Monday Night Raw, because for me, the Kabuki Warriors, most of the women's tag teams are on Raw, so it makes sense for them to be there. Io Sky has been the WWE Women's Champion for most of the last sort of 6 to 8 months, so a fresh scene for her, a fresh title to go for her would make a lot of sense. Of course, there are fresh matches as well, the likes of Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley when she returns from injury, so that could be a good direction for Io Sky moving forward. Dakota Kai as well would have more time to break out as well, and hope that she would have a good opportunity to actually establish herself alongside the likes of the Io Sky top end of the women's division if she was to get that move to Monday Night Raw. I mentioned Jimmy Uso earlier in this video, so yes, I'm going to say Naomi will be drafted to Raw. Naomi, for me, I think it was solidified the second that she took on Bayley last week on SmackDown for the Women's Championship and didn't get the job done. I think that it's clear that she'll be moving to Monday Night Raw. I do think she'll get another crack at that championship though, potentially at Backlash in the triple threat with Tiffany Stratton just before she makes the full move to Raw. But yeah, for me, when you look at the situation on SmackDown, you've got Bayley, you've got Bianca Belair, you've got Jade Cargill. She's quite low in the pecking order, and I think she would be higher in that pecking order on Monday nights. She's not been picking up a lot of wins since returning either, so I think a move to Raw is a must for Naomi in this draft. A free agent in last year's draft, but I think he's going to be tied to a brand this time round. I'm going to go for the United States champion, Logan Paul, because some championships need to change shows. They do it every year. It's that sort of exciting twist that they do. And I think Logan Paul, the fact he's been advertised for Raw, I think means he's going to be a Raw superstar moving forward. And of course, with the show going to Netflix as well, of course, Logan Paul being a big name outside of WWE, I think that tie-in just makes a lot of sense. And to be fair, he's seen as the social media megastar, and the fact we didn't get him going against the WWE's version of the megastar LA Knight makes me believe that he will be moving to Monday Night Raw as well. LA Knight could be someone that could fill a lot of shoes as well in the short term in WWE, because Roman Reigns is going to take a bit of a break. Seth Rollins is injured right now. I imagine he will stay on Raw when he returns. Spoiler alert. So yeah, I think LA Knight in the meantime could be someone that could feud with the Judgment Day, for example, Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship, but I think ultimately he could be the one that could take that United States Championship from Logan Paul. Many wanted to see it at WrestleMania. It didn't happen, so I would trade both of them guys over to Raw, and I think LA Knight will eventually be the guy that will get the job done, potentially on Netflix. Watch this space. Next mover to Raw from me, Legado del Fantasma, because Santos Escobar has been appearing on Raw a lot recently. He's actually had a few links with Dominik Mysterio as well. I think it could be a fresh direction to just see Santos versus Andrade, for example, rather than keep being Rey Mysterio. I also think that Legado del Fantasma could be a little bit of a key ingredient to the breakup of the Judgment Day, because, well, Damian Priest is not happy currently with some of the Judgment Day members not getting the job done, Dominik Mysterio being one. I could see Dominik perhaps turning on the Judgment Day, moving away and going to Legado del Fantasma. And as I've mentioned already, the fact that they've actually spent some time on Raw already, I think they've kind of just warmed the audience up to what is going to be a full-time move in the WWE draft. So I think Legado del Fantasma moving to Monday Night Raw, and like I say, play a part in that Judgment Day breakup as well. Next in the tag team division, Pretty Deadly to Monday Night Raw. Goodness, they've not been featured enough on SmackDown in my opinion. They've got great character work as well, and I think characters could be quite good in the Netflix era. Look, they've been unlucky with injuries as well. That probably hasn't helped their flight on SmackDown, but the fact is, for me, a fresh start, a fresh move to Raw just might be what Elton Prince and Kit Wilson need. And last mover to Monday Night Raw from SmackDown, not getting any TV time at all, Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn. They could add some depth to that tag team division once again. And yeah, they've just got no TV time on SmackDown, so a move to Raw seems like an important draft move in my personal opinion. Let's go with then NXT call-ups to Monday Night Raw. My first one is going to be Carmelo Hayes. He's been trialling on SmackDown, if you want, towards the end of last year, but I think he's actually going to be picked up by the Raw brand. I think there's some great exciting matches for him in the mid-card on Monday Night Raw, the likes of a Ricochet, for example, Andrade being another one. I think when Seth returns from injury, I think it'll be a great matchup as well. So there were some great matches there for Carmelo Hayes on a Monday Night Raw, and I think the fact his gimmick as well, I just think suits nicely for a Netflix. So I just feel that Carmelo Hayes to Raw seems like the right move. My next pick will be Lyra Valkyria. If you look back, of course, with her match with Becky Lynch last October when she won the NXT Women's Championship, I just thought from that moment, you've beaten one of the top stars in WWE. To do that and then spend another year in NXT just doesn't add up to me. She's had a 6-month-long championship reign at the top of NXT. She's ready to move to bigger and better things. So I think a move to Raw would work well for Lyra Valkyria, and I wouldn't be surprised as well if we see a tandem with her and Becky at some point during the calendar year, perhaps even going for those women's tag team championships. My next prediction will be Gigi Dolan. I think that she's been appearing a lot on main events. Doesn't seem to really have a lot of direction in NXT. Not really a big fan of the current storyline that she's got, but I could see her being called up now to Raw. I think the timing is right. She's been in NXT since the start of the 2.0 era, so I think the time is here and now. I would like to see her reunited with JC Jane, just do Toxic Attraction on Raw. I think that would work really well, adds more depth to that women's tag team division as well, but I suppose time will tell on that one. But I will predict Gigi Dolan definitely to get the call up to Monday night. So my last pick then from NXT to Raw is going to be the D'Angelo family. However, I think it'll only be Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo. I think the other two will be doing business for the Don in NXT still, while he goes off to do things on Monday Night Raw to take over the whole of WWE. And I think that I could see them adding another member in Giovanni Vinci now that he's been kicked out of Imperium. I just think it's a natural fit, if you will, for the D'Angelo family moving into Raw, having an established name there, so Stacks and Vinci can be the tag team, and Tony D'Angelo himself can go into the mid-card. Let's switch things up then. Who's going to be moving from Monday Night Raw to SmackDown? Well, Cody Rhodes is technically a SmackDown superstar already, but he has been doing a farewell tour on Raw. Of course, he was the one that defeated Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 40, winning the undisputed WWE Championship, which is aligned to SmackDown. I think the SmackDown move will be confirmed, and he will be no longer doing Raw appearances through the WWE draft. And of course, with that meaning for Cody, fresh opponents, fresh direction, a fresh show for him to be on. He's only been on Raw since his return to the company a couple of years ago. Who will be joining him on SmackDown now? Of course, I expect the likes of Kevin Owens. I think Randy Orton will be sticking around on SmackDown, but I do think potentially Gunther will be moving over to SmackDown. The ring general with Ludwig Kaiser, of course. I mentioned Vinci being kicked out of the group. Kaiser seems to be just about hanging on at this particular moment. I think both of them will be moving over to SmackDown, and Gunther will help fill out the main event scene of SmackDown. And I really hope AJ Styles sticks on SmackDown as well, because I want to see Gunther versus AJ at some point as well. But for Ludwig Kaiser, I think it'll be great for him that he can actually have a bit more of a hopefully a meaningful role, and hopefully he can actually be filling in to that WWE mid-card singles run. Now this one may surprise a few. Drew McIntyre to SmackDown. Now I know he's doing fantastic character work on Raw, he's been doing brilliant as a heel, he's getting great television time and everything. He doesn't need the move to SmackDown. However, I mentioned everybody that's moving to Monday Night Raw. I think that actually it would be good for him to move over to SmackDown, and I think a feud with Cody would make a lot of sense as well, particularly with Clash of the Castle in Scotland coming up in the next couple of months. But of course, if Drew McIntyre is going to SmackDown, I'm going to predict that CM Punk will be joining him as well. Yes, CM Punk on SmackDown to go after Drew McIntyre, potentially have a match with Cody later in the year as well. And something that could be quite interesting, people would say, well, Seth Rollins and CM Punk on different shows, you can use Seth to perhaps win the Royal Rumble to get a match against CM Punk, the champion, at WrestleMania next year, or vice versa. Say Seth is the World Heavyweight Champion, that's the way you can get Punk then back over to Raw at the start of the Netflix era, which probably makes more sense. Next, I've got Nia Jax moving over to SmackDown. Quite simply, she's feuded with everybody there is to feud with on Raw in her time that she's returned to the company. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan currently. After that, what does she do? She needs fresh opponents. I think Bayley is crying out for a monster heel on SmackDown. I think Nia could fill that role perfectly. And I think, of course, with the likes of Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, there are fresh matches for Nia Jax as well. They're not together yet, but I think they will be in a very near future. Chad Gable and the Creed brothers. I think that Chad Gable will be drafted separately to SmackDown away from the Alpha Academy. I think initially he's going to be without the Intercontinental Championship when that happens, but I think with the Creed brothers' help, I do think that they will be able to bring the Intercontinental Championship over to SmackDown at Backlash. So yeah, I think that they will be all moving over to SmackDown, which will be pretty exciting to see as well in the draft. A new variation of like a Team Angle, a Team Gable, if you will. And of course, if the IC title moves over to SmackDown, I've got Sheamus moving over to SmackDown as well. Yes, he's kind of just returned, he's just gone to Raw, but if the IC title is over on SmackDown, they keep mentioning commentary, it's the one title he's not won. I think that's going to be Sheamus's MO for the next 12 months or so I can see Sheamus then following over to Friday nights. Someone else who's currently after the Intercontinental Championship is Bronson Reed. I have him moving over to SmackDown. I think that he would just be a more bigger deal on SmackDown, if I'm being honest. I think he's got his spot on Raw as a monster heel, but I feel like there's a ceiling. On SmackDown, I think there's potential for him to go higher. I even think he could get a match against Cody Rhodes at some point later in the year, but that's just me speculating at this point. Bronson Reed, he's great in ring, but there's only one person that gets him over super on commentary, and that's Wade Barrett. No one says Tsunami better, and personally for me, I think Bronson Reed moving to SmackDown makes the most sense. I think Shinsuke Nakamura should move over to SmackDown as well, because, well, if I'm being brutally honest, Shinsuke's not winning a lot of matches. I think a move to SmackDown could do him a lot of favours. So yeah, Shinsuke Nakamura to move over in the draft will be a prediction from me. In the tag team division, I've got DIY moving over to SmackDown. I just feel personally they've gone for the World Tag Team Championships and they lost. I think that kind of is one of those things when it's after WrestleMania, you've had the championship shot, we've now got the draft coming up. That usually just makes me feel like you're going to be moving over. And with some of the draft picks I've done with SmackDown as well, kind of different to Raw. Raw, I've gone more like characters and cinema as like a defining Raw show. SmackDown for me feels like that, you know, hard-working sort of show. Your indie wrestling, like your professional wrestling comes first, where I think storyline will come more first on Monday Night Raw. So for that reason, I think DIY would fit the philosophy of SmackDown better. And I think personally, I think they'd be great opponents as well for Grayson Waller and Austin Theory for those WWE Tag Team Championships. And of course, as I've mentioned, Johnny Gargano then going over to SmackDown. Yes, I'm going to have Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell also moving over to SmackDown because, yes, as I said, I have Bianca and Jade winning those Women's Tag Team Championships and they will appear on both shows. So for me, I don't think it hurts having some tag teams on SmackDown as well. And I think Candice and Indy could even be future opponents for Bayley as well. I think there's a nice space there with Damage Control moving over to Raw, that on the heel side on SmackDown, there's fresh opportunities for females to actually go for the top championships, including, I think, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, who also think will be moving over in the draft as well. Again, same thing with the tag team division, but I think for them, it will be imperative that they actually can go for singles gold as well. Shayna Baszler has been hugely underrated in WWE. Zoe Stark is just getting started as well. We've seen her video package on Raw also. I think a bright future is ahead for her, and I can see her getting an opportunity against Bayley at some point later in the year. So let's go then for NXT stars that are going to be going to SmackDown. First off, no surprises here. Ilya Dragunov. Did you hear me earlier on? I said Gunther going to SmackDown. Wherever Gunther should be in the draft, Ilya Dragunov should be going as well. We need this at Bash in Berlin. The trilogy complete. Gunther and Ilya Dragunov had amazing matches. One in NXT UK, one on NXT. And yes, we need one then on the main roster. Yes, so SmackDown should be the place. And I think Bash in Berlin is the PLE that it should take place at. But not just for the match with Gunther, Ilya Dragunov has proven what a great talent he is in WWE. He's actually not been on the main roster. He's been with the company for like 4 or 5 years now, so I think it's his time now to break out and shine. He's got a lot of experience under his belt. He's got a lot of momentum now as well, and a lot of fans that are behind him as well, so I think he would do very well with that call-up. Next for me is Roxanne Perez. Yes, the current NXT Women's Champion. I thought she was going to drop it on NXT Spring Breaking. Didn't happen, but I tell you what, it doesn't mean that championship can't be vacated. It happened last year when Indy Hartwell was called up in the WWE draft. Roxanne Perez is ready, and I think for me, SmackDown is the right home for her. I've mentioned already about Bayley having new people to work with, new wrestlers to put over as well, to make new stars, and I think Roxanne Perez would fit in very, very well on the SmackDown side. In fact, that's a match that I really would look forward to, Bayley versus Roxanne Perez. Next prediction will be Baron Corbin to return to SmackDown. I want the Wolf Dogs. It's as simple as that. Bron Breakker is on the show. He's going to be a big star for the next, 10, 15 years in WWE. I'm sure it's going to come for him. But in the meantime, right now, I can quite happily see Baron Corbin and Bron Breakker as a team doing their thing, because for character development for both of these guys, it's been awesome to see, with Bron as a heel, with Baron as well. And to be fair, they're actually kind of likable, 8-hole heels, which is quite fun in a way. So yeah, I'd like to see them actually continue that partnership on SmackDown. And last but not least, I'm going to predict that Gallus get the call to SmackDown because, well, they were training Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson when Rock was getting ready to return for WrestleMania 40. Gallus were a big part of helping train up The Rock, and I think there could be some reward for that. I've put them on SmackDown because, well, I've put Drew McIntyre also on SmackDown, and with Clash at the Castle Scotland coming up, I wouldn't be surprised to see Gallus involve that Tag Team Championship scene nice and early. So those are the movers to Raw and SmackDown, but what about NXT in this? They're surely going to need some names in the draft as well. They've been promised a few names, so here are some that I think will be moving to NXT, and no surprise, the Final Testament are the first one. They're technically already there, aren't they? We've got AOP, we've got Karrion Kross, AOP going for those NXT Tag Team Championships already. They're saying that the black and gold era technically never dies, it's back, and they can actually, go back to the dominance they were before. I'm looking forward to seeing that story. It could be a lot of fun with that. So yeah, I think they'll be sticking around NXT for the long future. I'd say at least for the next 12 months, and I think it's going to be a fun storyline as well. I think Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, of course, the OC, will be sticking around as well. They seem to have been there for quite a while now, so I imagine they will be there. I wouldn't be surprised if Michin was to drop down either to NXT, if I'm being brutally honest, but we'll have to see. Time will tell on that one. I have her currently remaining on SmackDown. But Natalya is someone I think will be sticking around NXT as well. I think that she's a ring general. She's great with her experience as well. She's been in the company for 15, 16 years. For new emerging talents coming up, to work with a Natalya would be amazing for their career, to just get lots of knowledge, a lot of in-ring experience, someone that's also been in the dungeon, someone that can actually, tangle up with in the Performance Center as well. Natalya is going to be, she's a WWE lifer, and I think for right now NXT is giving her a breath of fresh air, and you can see she's really enjoying those positive reaction she gets as well from the NXT crowd as well, especially when they're chanting Boat during the NXT Underground segment they had this past week on Spring Breaking. Tegan Nox is another name that I think should go back to NXT, and I'm going to predict she will do as well. There seems to be nothing for her on Raw. She's not really been on TV at all, apart from those couple of weeks with Becky Lynch. So I think a move to NXT would do her good right now. I've called a few names up as well, with the likes of, as I said, Roxanne Perez, Lara Valkyria, Gigi Dolan. So there is spaces there, and I think Tegan Nox certainly could fill that space and certainly make the most of it as well. Last two then I have moving to NXT. One, Nikki Cross. She's got no TV time on WWE at all as of late. I want to see more Nikki Cross on my TV. I think that she's a really good talent. I think the crazy gimmick works really, really well. I'd like to see her do something with Tatum Paxley. You know, the fact that we've got Psychotic and Obsessed either working together or against each other could be a fun time. So I want to see that play out. And someone that's also a bit on the creepy side, Dexter Lumis. We've not seen nothing of him for a long time either. I would like to see Lumis back in NXT. I think that he actually did a lot of his best work in his career, in my opinion, in NXT. Sean did book him really, really well, so I'd like to see that renewed once again. So that's my predictions there for the WWE Draft 2024. Let me know your picks now in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree with some of my choices in the predictions? I cannot wait to interact with you. Make sure to like the video, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. And check out these videos on the side of the screen right now, all featuring the WWE Draft 2024, with more videos coming on the way featuring the draft, including results and reaction in the next few days on this channel. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. I'll see you for the next video.